So we're going to continue learning about Hilchos Muktzah. Yesterday we spoke about alarm clocks. We're just going to add on a detail that many people mentioned afterwards, that of course if one is using a smartphone that might do 25 other things when they pick it up, then that would be a problem. If you pick it up and the screen's going to turn on and it's going to read your face and it's going to tell you your latest messages and the news and the weather and all other good things that of course is forbidden, that's irrelevant to Hilchos Muktzah. Obviously, if one were to be using their phone as an alarm, as we mentioned yesterday, they should be disabling all other functions. There was asked, what about the fact that your phone is tracking itself by default? So that level, probably one does not have to be concerned about. That's something that you're not completely non-siachlis to. That's what we would call a davar she'ein niskavin. That's not even in your realm of consciousness. But other things that happen on the screen, and back in the day of flip phones, with back in the day, it still happens in many places, that that shows the service. So some place can be even chayshish that the service changes as you walk with it. So we're just pointing out that one has to be concerned with all the other things that are going to be happening on his phone as he moves them. So let's just move along to talk about a few of the classical klishim Melachto isers. We spoke about a pen, a scissor we mentioned. Just again, I don't know how deep we're going to go into this other machlekes. Let's just spend 2 minutes on it. 2 minutes on this other machlekes. What's this other machlekes? Fundamental question. We defined Kli Melachto Isser as a utensil that's primary function is to do forbidden acts on Shabbos. Does it also need to have a auxiliary, a non-primary function of heter on Shabbos? I keep saying the primary function of Isser. But does it need to have another function? And we said that something like an iPad, we said indicates, because you're not going to be careful with it, is a Kli Melachto Isser. But wait, is this a utensil that its primary function is to do Isser? Maybe it's a utensil that its only function is to do Isser. Does it have another function? And this is a massive machlekes. We pointed out, this is what the Mishnah Berurah and the Shartzian quotes the Muktzah with regard to a wax candle. A wax candle was the quintessential example of an item that not only is its primary function to do Isser, but its sole and only function is to do Isser. The Mishnah Berurah and the Shartzian does quote this Muktzah likula, in that this candle he considers a Kli Melachto Isser. But the question is, how do we answer up this question? Does it need to have another function? And the answer probably is a prima gadin that says it can't be that you're makbid, that you don't use it for anything else. Let me explain. Is utilizing something as a paperweight a permissible function to give it the auxiliary function and therefore keep it a Kli Melachto Isser or not? So if it's something, or maybe it makes it into Muktzah Machzar Gis, or maybe it makes it to Muktzah Gomer, because it doesn't have another function. And there are many machmirin. I believe if you open up Simcha Bun Cohen's book on Muktzah, pretty sure he breaks up what we're saying right now into two categories. There's Kli Melachto Isser Sug Aleph and Sug Bet. It's Kli Melachto Isser with a permissible function, and that's going to be a Kli Melachto Isser like we spoke about. Then there's Kli Melachto Isser without a permissible function, and then that makes it Muktzah Gomer. He is machmir on this shayla, and therefore every item you have to ask. Probably, if you were to ask Simcha Bun Cohen the status of an iPad, he would tell you it's a Kli Melachto Isser Sug Bet, which is that it's the highest level of Muktzah because there's no other permissible function. As mentioned, there is the Shartzian that is Meko, there's others as well. I believe it's a base mayor or Kiv Eger, other very, very big price. It's a massive machlekes. We're just going to point out that there is makom to be Meko to call it a Kli Melachto Isser.
Why?
But based on these other prices, there's four quotes of Muktzah.
Well, what the heck?
Muktzah, because he does not need it to be having another function. What do they need it to have? They need it to be that it could potentially be used for another function. What does that mean? I can use it as a paperweight. So then the question back is, because anything is a paperweight.
Even Muktzah Gomer.
The answer is no, you can't. Because you would never take your Mila knife, you would never take your Shchita knife, you would never even take your fancy digital camera, you would never take that item and use it as a paperweight. So if there's an item that its primary function is to do Isser, and you're makbid not to even use it for something else, then will be machskim that it will bump it up to the highest level. But once something is going to be like we said, an iPad, like your phone, like a scissor, like a pen, all these items that its primary function is Isser. And also, you have to realize, often you use these things for other items. It's true. Sometimes you have your pen, you do scratch out of the pen. It is a good example. You have a scissor, you do use your scissor to cut open ices, which is mutter on Shabbos. So you do use it for permissible function. So even, I'm just pointing out, even according to the Machmirim, you have to be aware that there are very often times that you actually use it for heter, and not only for Shabbos, very often during the week. And we'll bring this out with a pot versus a frying pan. A pot versus a frying pan. We're going to bring out this idea. What do you use a pot for? To cook in. Okay. Do you use a pot to store things in? Well, you finish your soup, and what do you do with it? So some people say they pour it into a container, they put it in the fridge. Other people say they take the whole pot and put it in the fridge. So now your pot has a dual function. Your pot is to cook, but it's also used to store. So much so, somebody's going to want to say that your pot is a kli shemalachto leheter. Why? Because what's the primary function of your pot? I don't know. How often does it stay on the stove and how often does it stay in the fridge? Maybe it has a larger usage of heter than not. Some people might have a hard time being Makabbalist. The Sefer HaShabbos L'mais is Machmir, and he says it's a Kli Shemachta L'Isser, but there are many points. It's even a Kli Shemachta L'Heter. There's not going to be that much relevance, because when your pot is on your counter in Shabbos and you want to put it away, why are you putting it away? Because you want the space. Therefore, anyways, it's going to be okay. But a frying pan, what do you use a frying pan for? Most people don't store things in a frying pan. So the frying pan would be this item that is actually a Kli Shemalachto L'Isser. Now, are you makbid to not use your frying pan for anything else? No, I don't know. You would use it to let the kid play jumps and then on the floor. Oh, well, that's interesting. People actually do that. So maybe it isn't actually in this higher level of Muktzah, because maybe we do actually have other functions of utilizing things that are normal and common. Now, it's true, the Mishnah Berurah's wax candle, I don't know what else they would have used it for. That's a very valid point, and that would be a perfect example. But in modern society, even though we have every item, a million items, but very often we still utilize things for permissible functions. So, bisikom, one second, let's just get clear the sikom as we're running out of time, and then we'll take questions afterwards. Bisikom la halacha lemaisa, we're going to say as follows. If you have a utensil that its primary function is to do isser, and at times you use heter for it, which are many of our items, then of course it's a kli shemalachto isser, and there's no question. If you have an item that the primary function is to do isser, and you never use it for heter, maybe this would be a good example. What do I ever use this for heter for? What do I use that for? Then that would be a very large machlokes haposkim, and many would be machmer to call a muktzah gomer. Lemaisa, based on the Mishnah Berurah, the Marixia, there is makom to be mekel, because I'm not makbid to not use it on something else. I just don't have another usage for it. If this paper is at its windy, I will put it down on the papers. If I need a mirror, hey, look, it's a perfect mirror. Look at that. I would use it also. So that is that level. And based off of this, now we will understand that when your child or yourself wants a freeze pop on Shabbos, what are you going to go take to cut it open? A scissor. A scissor is a kli shemalachto l'isser that its primary function is to do forbidden acts. Okay, great. But you're allowed to use it for its usage or its place. This is called its usage. Ask inquiring minds. But the Mishnah Berurah says, I'm sorry, I said it was a sikkim, I cannot add on this detail. Ask inquiring minds that the Mishnah Berurah says that if any time you have another non-muktzah utensil, it's better to use the non-muktzah utensil before the muktzah utensil. So even though you have a permissible usage to use your scissor to cut open the ices, but it's better to use a non-muktzah item, so maybe you should go and use your knife. But the answer is, says the posting, that's only as long as the other item is as good as the muktzah item. So yes, you should not go and now they learn Halacha Muktzah, walk around on Shabbos and say, hey, look, I got a mirror, come into shul, put it on your table, and spend davening, adjusting your tie because you have a mirror. We learned how to use it. That's ridiculous because you have a regular mirror. But when it comes to cutting your ices, since we all know a scissor works much better than a knife, then you would, yes, be allowed to use your scissor to cut open your ices on Shabbos.